Before we begin, please remember that I am not a certified financial advisor, and this presentation is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information shared is based on my research into Dave Ramsey's financial principles and should not be considered personalized financial, legal, or real estate advice. Buying a home is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make, so please consult with qualified professionals for guidance tailored to your specific situation. The 30-year mortgage is the most effective trap ever designed to keep the American middle class in chains. It's sold to us as the American dream, a key to building wealth, but for millions, it's a financial nightmare in disguise. Think about it. You spend years saving, you build a decent credit score, you're finally ready. You walk into a lender's office, and they punch some numbers into a computer. A few minutes later, they turn the screen towards you with a smile and say, "Congratulations, you're pre-approved for $500,000. And in that moment you feel a rush. You feel successful. You feel rich. But that feeling is a carefully engineered illusion. The bank isn't telling you what you can afford. They are telling you the absolute maximum amount of money they can squeeze out of you for the next 3 decades. They are telling you the number that will keep you chained to a desk, terrified of a job loss, and one broken air conditioner away from a financial crisis. They are selling you a life sentence of being house poor. What if there was another way? A path that the banks and real estate agents don't tell you about, because it doesn't make them as much money? That's exactly what we're going to explore. Over the next 10 parts, we are going to systematically dismantle the conventional wisdom around buying real estate in the United States. We're going to deep dive into the controversial, yet incredibly effective principles taught by Dave Ramsey, a man who has guided millions of people out of debt and into true financial freedom. By the end of this series, you won't just understand how to buy a house. You will have a blueprint for buying a home in a way that makes you wealthy, not a slave to a loan. You will learn how to turn the American dream from a liability into your single greatest asset. But before we can even talk about down payments, interest rates, or finding the right property, we have to start where Dave always starts, with the foundation. You would never build $1 million house on a cracked, shaky foundation of sand, right? It would be foolish. Yet, millions of Americans do the financial equivalent of that every single year. They take on the largest debt of their lives while standing on a foundation of credit card debt, car loans, and a non-existent emergency fund. According to Ramsey, this is a recipe for absolute disaster. So, the very first principle of buying a house his way is this: you must get your own financial house in order first. This isn't the sexy part. This is the hard work. But it is the most important part. This means completing what he calls the first 3 baby steps. Baby step 1 is to save a $1,000 starter emergency fund. This isn't a wealth-building tool. This isn't an investment. This is a buffer between you and life. It's Murphy-proof insurance. Because the moment you decide to get serious about your money, Murphy will move into your spare bedroom. The transmission will go out. The kid will need braces. The water heater will explode. Without this $1,000 cushion, a minor inconvenience becomes a crisis that sends you deeper into debt, derailing your entire plan. For the homebuyer, this step is even more critical. Homeownership is a masterclass in unexpected expenses. The furnace doesn't care about your budget. The roof doesn't care that you just paid your property taxes. Having that emergency fund in place, separate from your down payment, is the first line of defense that keeps a small house problem from becoming a massive financial problem. Once that $1,000 is saved and sitting in a separate savings account, you move to baby step 2, the debt snowball. This is where the real battle is fought and won. You list all of your non-mortgage debts, credit cards, student loans, car payments, personal loans, from smallest balance to largest. You attack the smallest debt with every single extra dollar you can find. You live on rice and beans, you sell so much stuff the kids think they're next, you work a second job, you go completely gazelle intense. Once that smallest debt is gone, you take the payment you were making on it plus any extra money, and you roll it all onto the next smallest debt. As you knock out each debt, the snowball gets bigger and bigger, picking up speed until you are an unstoppable debt-destroying machine. Now, why is this non-negotiable before buying a house? Because your most powerful wealth-building tool is your income. Every dollar you send to a credit card company or a car dealership is a dollar you can't use to save for a down payment, invest for your future, or pay off your house early. A $400 car payment isn't just $400 a month. Over 30 years, if invested, that money could grow to hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million. Paying off your consumer debt frees up your income to work for you, not for the banks. Entering into a mortgage while still servicing thousands in other debts is like trying to run a marathon with a 50-pound backpack full of rocks. You might finish, but you'll be exhausted, broken, and years behind everyone else. You have to get rid of the rocks first. After you've become completely consumer debt-free, you move to baby step 3, building a fully funded emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. Now, that $1,000 fund from baby step 1 was just for minor emergencies. This is for the major life events: a job loss, a medical crisis, a global pandemic. This is the ultimate safety net. You calculate what it costs you to live for 1 month, and we're talking bare bones living, housing, utilities, food, transportation. Then you multiply that by 3 to 6 depending on your job stability and risk tolerance, and you save that amount in a simple, accessible money market or high-yield savings account. This fund is what allows you to own a house without the house owning you. Imagine you buy your dream home, and 6 months later, your company has a round of layoffs. Without this emergency fund, panic sets in immediately. You're staring at foreclosure. You're forced to take the first lowball job offer that comes along just to make the mortgage payment. But with a fully funded emergency fund, the situation is completely different. It's still stressful, but it's not a catastrophe. You have a 6-month buffer to breathe, to find the right job, not just any job. You can continue to pay your mortgage and keep your lights on without going a single dollar into debt. This fund protects your single largest asset, your home, from life's inevitable storms. It's the difference between fragility and security. These 3 steps, a starter emergency fund, becoming consumer debt-free, and a fully funded emergency fund, are the concrete foundation upon which the entire Ramsey real estate strategy is built. Skipping them is not an option. It's like a pilot deciding to skip the pre-flight checklist. Sure, you might take off, but the odds of a safe landing are dramatically lower. But this raises a huge, glaring question that I know you're thinking. If you pay off all your debts, what happens to your credit score? The FICO score is the holy grail of the American financial system. Don't you need a high score to get a mortgage in the first place? Doesn't paying off your loans and closing your credit cards tank your score, making it impossible to buy a house? It's the ultimate catch-22. Or is it? This is one of the biggest myths in personal finance, and in the next part we're going to expose the truth about the credit score and how you can, in fact, get a mortgage without worshiping at the altar of FICO. So let's pull back the curtain on this mysterious 3-digit number that holds so much power over our lives. The FICO score. What is it, really? We're told it's a measure of our financial responsibility, a grade on our adulting report card. But that's a carefully crafted marketing message. The truth is, a FICO score is not a measure of how good you are with money. It's not a measure of your net worth, your income, or how much you have in savings. A FICO score is quite simply a measure of how good you are at borrowing money and paying it back to banks. It's an I love debt score. Think about the 5 factors that make up your score. Payment history on debt, amounts owed on your debt, length of credit history, your history with debt, new credit meaning taking on more debt, and credit mix, the different types of debt you have. Notice a theme here? The entire system is designed to reward you for doing the one thing that keeps you broke: borrowing money. You get a gold star for having a car loan, another for juggling credit cards, and an A+ for taking out a mortgage. If you decide to live a life completely free of debt, paying cash for your cars, using a debit card instead of credit, your score will eventually become 0. Or more accurately, it becomes indeterminable. The system literally doesn't know how to score you because you've opted out of their game. And for that, they punish you by telling you that you can't get a mortgage. This is where millions of people get stuck. They believe the lie that you have to play the debt game to get the prize of homeownership. But there is another way. A path that's been around far longer than the FICO score, which was only widely adopted in the 1990s. It's called manual underwriting. Manual underwriting. It sounds intimidating, like some old-school dusty ledger process. But all it means is that instead of a computer algorithm making a decision about your life in 3 seconds based on a single number, an actual human being, an underwriter sits down and looks at your real financial situation. It's the difference between a robot scanning your resume for keywords and a hiring manager actually sitting down to interview you. Which one do you think gets a better picture of who you are? With manual underwriting, the lender is looking for one thing: proof of your ability to pay your bills. They're looking for stability. They're looking for character. They're not looking for a score. They're looking at your story. So, how do you prove you're a good risk without a credit score? You show them your track record. Instead of a credit report, you build a financial portfolio. You gather evidence of your financial responsibility. What does that look like? First, you need a history of paying your rent on time. You'll want 12 months of canceled checks or bank statements showing consistent, on-time rent payments to your landlord. This is your substitute for a mortgage payment history. It proves you can handle a major housing expense. Next, you show them other regular bills. Think of them as your four walls: food, utilities, shelter, and transportation. You'll gather 12 months of on-time payment history for things like your electricity bill, your water bill, your natural gas bill, your phone bill, and your insurance payments: car insurance, life insurance, medical insurance. Anything you pay consistently and on time becomes a piece of evidence in your favor. These are called alternative credit lines. It's you showing the lender, "Look, I don't have a Visa card, but I haven't missed a light bill in 5 years. I'm a reliable person." But it doesn't stop there. This is a deep dive. The underwriter will want to see your income, and they'll want to see that it's stable. This means you'll need your last 2 years of tax returns. You'll need recent pay stubs covering a 30-day period. If you're self-employed, this process is even more critical, as you'll need to provide extensive documentation of your business's profitability and your income history. And of course, they will scrutinize your bank accounts. They want to see where your down payment is coming from. They want to see that you have a history of saving money, not just a sudden large deposit that you can't explain. That's a huge red flag for a loan you didn't disclose. They want to see a healthy emergency fund, what they call cash reserves, on top of your down payment. This shows them that if you lose your job or have a medical emergency, you won't immediately default on the mortgage. You have a buffer. Now you might be thinking, this sounds like a ton of work. And where do I even find a lender who will do this? You're right on both counts. It is more work than just plugging your social security number into a website. And no, the giant faceless megabanks that spend billions on advertising probably won't want to talk to you. They operate on volume. They want the easy cookie-cutter applications that their computer can approve or deny in an instant. Manual underwriting takes time, takes effort. Your best bet is to look for smaller, local banks and credit unions. These institutions often have a vested interest in their local communities. They know the area. They might even have their underwriters in the same building. You can sit down with a loan officer and tell them your story. You can say, "We follow the Dave Ramsey plan. We don't do debt. We have no credit score, but we have a great income, a huge down payment, and a perfect history of paying our bills. We are an excellent risk." You can also seek out independent mortgage brokers. Their job is to connect borrowers with a wide variety of lenders, and a good broker will know exactly which ones specialize in and are comfortable with manual underwriting. They can champion your case for you. The key is to be prepared, organized, and unapologetic. You are not a leper because you don't have a FICO score. You are a disciplined, financially savvy person who has chosen to live differently. You have to present yourself that way. You're not asking for a favor. You are presenting them with a fantastic business opportunity. A loan to someone who has proven they can manage money. A loan that is far less likely to go into default than one given to someone with an 800 credit score who is leveraged to the hilt. This process forces you to be on top of your financial game in a way that the credit score system never does. It forces you to have a budget, to save aggressively, to live with intention. It's a trial by fire that prepares you for the realities of homeownership. By the time a manual underwriter approves your loan, you won't just be ready to buy a house. You'll have a rock-solid financial foundation that will last a lifetime. You've proven you're a responsible person. You found a lender who sees you as a human being, not just a number, and you've gotten the green light. The pre-approval letter is in your hand. But now comes the real mountain. The one that requires more sacrifice and discipline than anything else we've talked about. The down payment. And Dave Ramsey's rule on this one, well, this is the one that truly separates the casual followers from the true believers. And it's the single biggest key to building wealth and avoiding being house poor for the rest of your life. His rule is simple, it's radical, and to most people in today's world it sounds completely insane. The absolute, non-negotiable minimum down payment you should have before you even think about buying a house is 20%. 20%. Not 3%. Not 5%. Not the zero down the VA loan offers. 20. And that's the minimum. His gold standard, the ultimate goal that he believes every person should strive for, is 100%. Paying for your house in cash. Now I can already hear the keyboards clacking. I can feel the collective gasp from everyone watching. 20%? In this economy, that's impossible. It would take me a decade to save that much. And the 100% down idea? To most people, that sounds like a financial fairy tale. A myth. Something that only billionaires do. Stick with me, because understanding why he draws this incredibly thick line in the sand is the difference between building a life of financial peace and signing up for 30 years of stress. This isn't about being difficult. It's about being smart. It's about protecting yourself from the single biggest financial trap in modern America. Let's start with the 20% minimum. Why that specific number? It comes down to one of the most useless, money-draining products ever invented in the financial industry, PMI, private mortgage insurance. When you put down less than 20%, the bank sees you as a higher risk. They're worried that if you stop paying and they have to foreclose, the value of the house might have dropped, and they won't get all their money back. So, they force you to buy an insurance policy. But here's the twisted part. This insurance doesn't protect you. Protects the bank. You pay the premium every single month, and if you default, the insurance company pays the bank. You get absolutely nothing. It's like being forced to buy car insurance for your neighbor's car. Think about what that actually costs. On a $400,000 home, PMI can easily be $200, $300, even $400 a month, depending on your credit score. That's $3,000 to $4,000 a year or more that you are setting on fire. Builds you no equity, pays down no principal. It just vanishes into the ether to make a bank feel cozy at night. Over a few years, you could have lit $10,000 or $15,000 on fire. That's a car. That's a college fund. That's a paid-off credit card. Instead, it's just gone. Putting down 20% completely eliminates PMI from day one. You instantly save thousands of dollars a year. But that's just the beginning. The second reason is about building an immediate safety net. When you put 20% down, you have 20% equity in your home the moment you sign the papers. Equity is the part of the home you actually own. It's your skin in the game. Life happens. The economy happens. Real estate markets don't always go up. We saw that in 2008. People who had bought homes with little to no money down suddenly found themselves underwater, meaning they owed more on their mortgage than the house was even worth. They were trapped. They couldn't sell without bringing a massive check to the closing table, and they couldn't afford to stay. Having a 20% equity buffer protects you from that nightmare. If the market takes a 10% dip, it's stressful, but it's not a catastrophe. You're not underwater. You have breathing room. You have options. It's a financial shock absorber built right into your biggest asset. But let's address the biggest objection people have. The one that keeps them jumping into the market with no money down. It's the fear of missing out. But if I wait to save 20%, house prices will just keep going up. I'll be priced out forever. This is an argument based on panic, not math. It's treating a house like a lottery ticket, not a home. Dave's philosophy is that you never let market trends push you into making a bad personal financial decision. The real estate market will do what it's going to do. It will go up, it will go down, it will go sideways. The one thing you can control is your own financial stability. Buying a house you can't truly afford just to get in the market is like jumping onto a moving train because you're afraid it's the last one leaving the station. You might get on, but you're hanging on by your fingernails, and the slightest bump could send you flying. Is it possible that while you're saving, prices will go up? Yes. It's also possible they'll go down, or that your income will go up, allowing you to save even faster. You don't make the single largest purchase of your life based on a panicked guess about the future. You make it when you are ready. A period of focused, intense saving to get that 20% down payment isn't a penalty. It's a training ground. It proves you have the discipline and the income to actually handle homeownership, which, believe me, is a lot more expensive than just the mortgage. Now let's talk about the dream. The 100% down plan. Paying cash for a house. This is where Dave Ramsey truly departs from conventional wisdom. Because our entire culture is built on the idea that a 30-year mortgage is just a normal, unavoidable part of life, like death and taxes. But what if it wasn't? What if you never had a house payment? Imagine your life right now. Take your rent or your current mortgage payment. Let's say it's $2,500 a month. Now imagine that money is not in the expense column anymore. It's in the income column. Every single month, an extra $2,500 shows up in your bank account for you to do whatever you want with. That's $30,000 a year. What could you do with an extra $30,000 a year every year for the rest of your life? You could max out your retirement accounts. You could travel the world. You could pay for your kids' college in cash. You could start a business. You could become outrageously generous. You could retire a decade early. That is the power of a paid-for house. It is the ultimate key to financial freedom. It turns your biggest expense into your greatest wealth-building tool. The feeling of walking into a home that is 100% yours. No bank has a claim on it. No economic downturn can threaten it. Is a level of peace and security that no 3% down FHA loan can ever offer. Is it hard? You bet it is. It requires sacrifice. It requires living on less than you make, getting on a written budget, and attacking your savings goal with a vengeance. It might mean driving a beat-up car for a few more years, saying no to fancy vacations, and cooking at home instead of eating out. It's a period of intense short-term pain for a lifetime of gain. People who say it's impossible are usually the ones who haven't tried. They haven't mapped it out. They haven't seen what's possible when a couple gets on the same page and decides they are going to live differently from everyone else, so later, they can live differently from everyone else. So the down payment isn't just a number. It's a philosophy. It's your first and most important line of defense. It's the moat around your financial castle. It protects you from PMI, it protects you from market downturns, and it sets you on a path to true financial independence. Once you've accepted this principle, once you've done the hard work and you have that massive pile of cash, whether it's 20% or ideally 100%, the next question becomes critical. For those of us who do need a mortgage, what kind of loan is the right one? The world will scream at you to get a 30-year mortgage to keep the payments low. But Dave has a very different and much more powerful answer. And that choice will determine whether you get out of debt in your prime, or stay in it until you're old and gray. So what is that choice? The mortgage broker, the real estate agent, your parents, and every ad on television will tell you the same thing. Get a 30-year mortgage. It's the standard. It's what everyone does. And it's one of the single biggest wealth-destroying decisions you can possibly make. Dave Ramsey's answer is radically different. It's simple, it's non-negotiable, and it is the absolute cornerstone of his real estate philosophy. He screams from the rooftops that you should only ever, under any circumstances, get a 15-year fixed-rate mortgage. And right now, half of you are probably thinking, that's insane. The payment would be huge. I could never afford that. And that is exactly the response the banking industry has conditioned you to have. They have masterfully sold the American public on the 30-year mortgage, not because it's good for you, but because it is incredibly profitable for them. The 30-year mortgage is a trap, baited with a deceptively low monthly payment. It keeps you in debt for the majority of your working life, quietly siphoning hundreds of thousands of dollars of your money into their pockets in the form of interest. It's the financial equivalent of running a marathon with a ball and chain shackled to your ankle. You might eventually finish, but you'll be exhausted, broken, and decades behind everyone else. Let's just run the numbers because the math doesn't lie. Let's imagine a typical scenario. You're buying a $400,000 house. You followed the rules and saved up a 20% down payment, which is $80,000. So, you need to get a loan for the remaining $320,000. We'll use a hypothetical interest rate of 6.5%, just for this example. You go to the bank. Option A is the traditional 30-year mortgage. Your monthly principal and interest payment would be about $2,022. That sounds manageable, right? It fits in the budget. You can handle that. But here's the devastating truth. Over the course of those 30 years, you will pay a total of more than $728,000 for that $320,000 loan. That means you paid over $408,000 in interest alone. You paid the bank more in interest than you paid for the actual house. You bought a house for yourself and you bought a second invisible house for your lender. That is financial insanity. Now let's look at option B. Dave's 15-year fixed-rate mortgage on that same $320,000 loan. The monthly payment is going to be higher, no question. It would be about $2,788. That's about $766 more per month. And this is the exact point where most people get scared and back out. They see that higher payment as a punishment, as something they can't afford. But what they fail to see is the prize on the other side. With a 15-year loan, your total payout over the life of the loan is about $502,000. That means your total interest paid is about $182,000. Let that sink in. By choosing the 15-year mortgage, you just prevented $226,000 of your hard-earned money from vanishing into the bank's coffers. $226,000. That's a college education for multiple kids. That's a fleet of new cars. That's a massive head start on your retirement investments. It's life-changing money. And all you had to do to keep it was make a different choice on day one. You have to reframe how you see that higher monthly payment. That extra $766 a month isn't a cost. It's the most powerful forced savings and wealth-building tool you will ever have. Every single dollar of that extra payment is a direct assault on the principal balance of your loan. It's not just paying off your house faster. It's building equity at a blistering pace. While the person with a 30-year loan spends the first decade barely making a dent in what they owe, you are piling up ownership in your home at lightning speed. But this goes so much deeper than just the numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about your life. This is about your freedom. The person with the 30-year mortgage will be sending a house payment to the bank when they're 65 years old, hoping they have enough in their 401k to retire. The person who chose the 15-year mortgage will be mortgage-free at 50. Imagine that feeling. You're 50 years old, in the prime of your earning years, and your single largest expense is gone. Forever. What could you do with that extra $2,788 every single month? You could max out your retirement accounts. You could start a business. You could travel the world. You could become outrageously generous. You have options. You have peace of mind. When a recession hits, you're not terrified of losing your home. When an unexpected medical bill arrives, it's an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. You own your house, it doesn't own you. The 15-year mortgage isn't just a debt reduction plan. It's a life enhancement plan. Buys back 15 years of your freedom. What is that worth to you? Now there's a second part to this rule that's just as important. The fixed rate part. Dave is adamant that you should never, ever get an adjustable rate mortgage or ARM. An ARM is a ticking time bomb. The bank will lure you in with a super low teaser interest rate for the first few years. Your payment looks amazing. But then, after that introductory period, the rate adjusts. And it will almost always adjust up. It's tied to the market, and you have absolutely no control over it. Your predictable, manageable house payment could suddenly skyrocket by hundreds, or even $1,000 a month. It's a bait and switch, and it's how millions of people lost their homes in the 2008 financial crisis. A fixed-rate mortgage means your interest rate is locked in for the entire life of the loan. Your payment will never change. It is stable. It is predictable. It allows you to actually budget for the future. Taking an adjustable rate mortgage is like gambling with the roof over your family's head. You just don't do it. Now let's address the biggest objection head-on. But I truly cannot afford the payment on a 15-year mortgage for the houses in my area. Dave's answer to this is blunt, and it's a dose of tough love that many people don't want to hear. His response is simple. Then you can't afford that house. If you can't afford the 15-year payment, you're looking at too much house. It means you need to lower your price range. It means you need to save up a larger down payment. It means you might need to look in a different neighborhood or a smaller home. It's about aligning your lifestyle with your actual financial reality, not stretching yourself so thin that one broken air conditioner sends your entire world into a tailspin. This principle forces you to buy a home that is a blessing to your life, not a curse on your budget. So the choice is clear. The 15-year fixed-rate mortgage is a declaration of war against debt. It's a conscious decision to prioritize your future freedom over a slightly lower payment today. It's the path of discipline, the path of wisdom, and the fastest track to building real, lasting wealth. Okay, so you've embraced the mindset. You've gotten your finances in order, you've saved your down payment, and you've gotten pre-approved for a sensible 15-year fixed-rate mortgage. You have the weapon. You're ready for battle. Now comes the most dangerous part of the entire journey. Actually looking for a house. This is where logic goes out the window and raw emotion takes over. And it's here that a single mistake, driven by the seductive whisper of the dream home, can completely destroy your financial future before it even begins. So, how do you protect yourself from this emotional tidal wave? How do you build a dam of logic that can withstand the flood of must-have features and perfect neighborhoods? Dave Ramsey's answer is brutally simple and profoundly effective. It's a mathematical rule so rigid it leaves no room for emotional error. And it is, without a doubt, the most controversial and most important principle in his entire real estate philosophy. The rule is this. Your total monthly house payment cannot exceed 25% of your monthly take-home pay. And that loan must be a 15-year, fixed-rate mortgage. Let's break that down because every single word in that sentence is critical. First, 25%, not 28%, which is what many banks use for their front-end ratio. Not 35 or 40%, which they will gleefully approve you for. 25%. Second, of your take-home pay. This is the number that actually hits your bank account after taxes, after health insurance, after your 401k contribution. It's your real, spendable income, not the fantasy number on your offer letter. Finally, a 15-year fixed-rate mortgage. Not 30. Not an adjustable rate mortgage. Not an interest-only loan. 15 years. Fixed. To the average American homebuyer, conditioned by a culture of buy as much house as you can possibly qualify for, this sounds insane. Sounds impossibly restrictive. You're probably thinking, there's no way I can find a decent house in my area that fits those numbers. And that is precisely the point. This rule isn't designed to help you buy your dream home. It's designed to stop you from buying a financial nightmare disguised as one. Let's go back to that moment of temptation. You've saved your down payment. You're debt-free. You get pre-approved for a loan. The lender tells you, based on your gross income, you can afford a $500,000 house. Your heart soars. You start looking at listings in that price range. The homes are beautiful. They have the open concept kitchen, the master suite, the big backyard for the dog. The real estate agent, who is a lovely person but whose commission is based on the sale price, shows you the perfect house. It's listed at $495,000. You fall in love. You do the math. On a 30-year mortgage, the payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is going to be about $3,500 a month. Your combined take-home pay is $8,000 a month. That payment is nearly 44% of your take-home pay. It completely shatters Ramsey's 25% rule. But the lender already said you were approved. The agent says it's a great investment. And you're standing in what feels like your kitchen. This is the moment of decision. This is where you either follow the Ramsey plan or you join the ranks of the house poor. House poor is a uniquely American brand of misery. It's the condition of owning a beautiful house and being too broke to do anything else. It's when your home, the supposed symbol of your success, becomes a golden cage. You can't afford to go on vacation. You can't save for retirement like you should. A surprise car repair sends you into a panic. You bicker with your spouse about spending $50 at the grocery store. Every single dollar is accounted for, and the vast majority of it is flying out the door to service the mortgage on the very walls that are suffocating you. You have a 3-car garage, but you can't afford to put a second car in it. You have a beautiful backyard you can't afford to landscape. Life becomes an endless, stressful cycle of just paying for the house. The 25% rule is your vaccine against this disease. It ensures you have margin. It leaves breathing room in your budget. It means that when life happens, and it always does, you aren't one emergency away from foreclosure. It allows you to continue aggressively investing for retirement, saving for your kids' college, and actually living your life. The house is meant to be a blessing, not a burden. It's a place you live in, not something you work for. Now let's talk about the second part of that rule. The 15-year fixed-rate mortgage. Why is Dave so fanatically insistent on this? Why not the standard 30-year loan that everyone else gets? The answer is one word: interest. The 30-year mortgage is one of the most deceptively destructive financial products ever invented. It was designed to make banks rich, not to make you wealthy. Let's run some simple numbers. Say you're buying a modest home and you take out a $300,000 mortgage. On a 30-year fixed loan at a 6% interest rate, your monthly principal and interest payment is about $1,800. Over the course of 30 years, you will pay the bank a staggering $347,000 in interest alone. You borrowed $300,000, but you will pay back nearly $650,000. The bank makes more money on your loan than you paid for the house itself. You spend 3 decades sending a massive chunk of your income to the bank. Now, let's look at the same $300,000 loan on a 15-year fixed-rate mortgage. Because the term is shorter, the interest rate is usually a bit lower, let's say 5.5%. Your monthly payment is higher, around $2,450. And that's where most people stop. They see the higher payment and immediately say, I can't afford that. But they're missing the big picture. With a 15-year loan, your total interest paid over the life of the loan is about $141,000. Let me repeat that. On the 30-year loan, you paid $347,000 in interest. On the 15-year loan, you paid $141,000. By choosing the 15-year mortgage, you save over $200,000. You prevent $200,000 of your hard-earned money from ever leaving your family and going into the bank's vault. That's a new car. That's a college education. That's a giant leap toward financial independence. And even more importantly, you are completely debt-free in 15 years. Imagine you buy your house at age 30. With a 15-year note, you're done at 45. While your friends are still slogging through another 15 years of house payments, you have your entire mortgage payment freed up every single month. You can dump that $2,450 a month into retirement investments during your peak earning years. The wealth-building power of that is almost incalculable. You don't just get out of debt. You launch yourself toward millionaire status with the velocity of a rocket. The 30-year mortgage sells you a lower payment in exchange for a lifetime of servitude. The 15-year mortgage asks for a short-term sacrifice in exchange for long-term freedom. It's the difference between renting your money from the bank for 3 decades versus owning your life. This is why the 25% rule and the 15-year mortgage are a non-negotiable package deal. The 25% limit forces you to buy a house that you can actually afford to pay off quickly. It forces you into a smaller, more modest home to start. It's a reality check. It might mean you buy a 1,500 square foot house instead of a 2,500 square foot house. It might mean you buy in a slightly less trendy neighborhood. It might mean you have to live with the old kitchen countertops for a few years. But what it also means is that you will be in control. Your house won't own you. You will build equity at a lightning pace, and you'll be on the fast track to true financial peace. The goal isn't to impress people with the house you live in. The goal is to build a life where your money works for you, not the other way around. By sticking to these 2 foundational constraints, you're not just buying a house. You're buying your freedom. You're choosing a future with margin, with options, and with peace. So you've accepted the math. You've resisted the siren song of the oversized dream home. You've committed to the 25% rule and the 15-year mortgage. You've adjusted your search criteria and found a home that actually fits the plan. Now what? You're ready to make an offer, right? Not so fast. Because finding a house that fits the budget is only half the battle. You still have to make sure you're not about to buy a giant pile of problems. How do you know if the house is a solid investment or a money pit in disguise? That's where Ramsey's next principle comes in. And it's all about doing your homework before you ever sign on the dotted line. This step is what separates a smart home buyer from someone who ends up featured on a home renovation nightmare show. It's the principle of getting a thorough professional home inspection. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. It's another $4 or $5, maybe $600 on top of everything else I'm already paying. And in a hot market, you might even be tempted by the seller to waive the inspection to make your offer look more attractive. In Dave Ramsey's world, that is financial insanity. It's like a surgeon agreeing not to look at the x-rays before operating. It's like a pilot deciding to skip the pre-flight checklist to save a few minutes. Waiving a home inspection is one of the single most expensive gambles you can take. That $500 you save could cost you $50,000 down the road. The home inspection is not an expense. It's the cheapest insurance policy you will ever buy. It's your shield. It's your truth detector. It's the one unbiased expert opinion you get in this whole process that is working exclusively for you. So what are they actually looking for? A good inspector is a generalist with a detective's eye. They're crawling into spaces you'd never go and looking at things you wouldn't even know to look at. They are focused on what Ramsey calls the big-ticket items, the major systems that can either give you decades of peace or drain your bank account dry. Let's start at the top, the roof. An inspector isn't just glancing up there. They're looking for missing or curling shingles, signs of water damage on the underside in the attic, damaged flashing around chimneys and vents, and the overall age and condition. Why does this matter? The average cost to replace a roof in the United States isn't a couple grand. We're talking $10, $15, even $20,000 or more depending on the size and material. A bad roof is a ticking time bomb that threatens everything underneath it. Next, they go to the bottom, the foundation. This is the skeleton of the house. The inspector is hunting for cracks. Not just any cracks, but significant horizontal or stair-step cracks in the concrete or block. They're looking for bowing walls, signs of water intrusion in the basement or crawl space, or doors and windows that don't close properly, which can indicate the house is shifting. A foundation issue isn't a DIY weekend project. It's a major structural repair that can easily run into the tens of thousands of dollars. This is the kind of problem that can literally bankrupt a new homeowner. Then you have the guts of the home, starting with the HVAC system, that's your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. The inspector will determine the age of the furnace and the AC unit. Most of these systems have a lifespan of about 15 to 20 years. If the one in your potential new home is 18 years old and sputtering, You need to know that you're on the hook for a $5,000 to $10,000 replacement in the very near future. They'll check for proper operation, rusted heat exchangers, which can be a carbon monoxide risk, and dirty ductwork. This isn't just about comfort, it's about safety and massive upcoming expenses. Equally important is the electrical system. This is a huge safety issue. The inspector will open up the main electrical panel. They're looking for an outdated fuse box instead of a modern breaker panel. They're checking for faulty wiring, like old knob and tube or aluminum wiring, which can be a fire hazard and make it impossible to get homeowners insurance. They'll look for double-tap breakers, scorch marks, and ungrounded outlets. A full home rewire is another one of those five-figure jobs that will absolutely wreck your budget if you weren't prepared for it. And finally, plumbing. The inspector is checking for active leaks under every sink and around every toilet. They're looking at the type of pipes. Is it modern copper or PX? Or is it old corroded galvanized steel that's just waiting to burst? They'll check the water heater's age and condition. A slow leak you don't know about can lead to thousands in mold and rot repair. A burst pipe can flood your entire home. These 5 areas, roof, foundation, HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, are the non-negotiables. They are the pillars of a safe and sound home. Now, getting an inspection isn't just about ordering one up. It's about getting the right one. Dave Ramsey is adamant that you hire your own independent inspector. Do not, under any circumstances, use an inspector recommended by the seller or the seller's agent. That is a massive conflict of interest. Their job is to sell the house, not to find problems with it. You need someone whose only loyalty is to you and the truth. Look for inspectors with certifications from organizations like ASHI, the American Society of Home Inspectors. Read their reviews online. Ask for a sample report so you can see how thorough they are. A good report will be dozens of pages long, filled with photos and detailed descriptions. And you absolutely must attend the inspection yourself. Walk around with the inspector. Ask questions. This is the single best opportunity. You'll have to learn about the inner workings of your potential new home. Once the inspection is done, you'll get that report. This document is pure gold. It's your primary negotiation tool. The report will rarely, if ever, come back perfectly clean. Every house has its quirks, but the findings will generally fall into 3 categories. Category 1, green light. The issues are minor: a loose handrail, a dripping faucet, a cracked outlet cover. These are small, manageable things you can likely handle yourself. Congratulations, you found a solid house. Category 2, yellow light. The inspection uncovers some moderate issues. Maybe the water heater is on its last legs, or a handful of windows have broken seals. The roof has 5 years of life left, not 15. This doesn't mean you walk away. This means you negotiate. You now have a professionally documented list of necessary repairs. You can go back to the seller and say, "We'd like to proceed, but you need to either fix these specific items before closing, or you need to reduce the purchase price by $10,000 so we can hire someone to fix them ourselves." The inspection report gives you incredible leverage to get a better deal. And Category 3, red light. The inspection reveals a deal breaker: a cracked foundation, evidence of a massive mold problem. The whole house needs to be rewired. These are the money pits. This is the moment where emotion has to take a backseat to math. It doesn't matter how much you love the kitchen or the backyard. If the core of the house is rotten, you have to be willing to walk away. This is the real power of the inspection. It gives you the knowledge and the courage to dodge a financial bullet. Losing your earnest money is painful, but it's a tiny fraction of what you would have lost by buying that house. So you've done your homework. You found a great house, the inspection came back with a green or a manageable yellow light, and you've negotiated a fantastic fair price. You've dodged the money pit. You are in the clear, right? Not so fast. Because the single biggest trap for homebuyers isn't the leaky roof or the faulty wiring. It's hidden in the fine print of the loan document you're about to sign. And Dave has a very, very specific, non-negotiable rule about the only kind of mortgage you should ever get. It's a 15-year, fixed-rate, conventional mortgage. That's it. That's the rule. No exceptions, no clever workarounds, no "well, in my market" justifications. If you want to follow the Dave Ramsey playbook for building wealth through real estate, this is the non-negotiable foundation. To him, every other type of loan is a gimmick, a trap, or a financial landmine designed to do one thing: keep you chained to the bank for as long as possible. Now, I know what half of you are thinking. A 15-year? Are you kidding me? The payment is so much higher. I could never afford that. And that, right there, is the heart of the great mortgage debate. It's the battle between the 30-year mortgage, the so-called American dream, and the 15-year mortgage, the path of financial discipline. Let's break this down with cold, hard numbers because math doesn't have an opinion. Imagine two families, the Joneses and the Smiths. Both are buying identical houses for $400,000. Both have their 20% down payment, so they're taking out a loan for $320,000. And let's say they both get the same fixed interest rate of 6.5%. The Joneses go the traditional route, the route their realtor suggested, the one the bank pushed. They take out a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. Their monthly principal and interest payment is about $2,022. Feels manageable. It's comfortable. They have plenty of breathing room in their budget. The Smiths, on the other hand, are following Ramsey's advice. They grit their teeth and sign up for the 15-year fixed-rate mortgage. Their monthly payment is significantly higher, around $2,788. That's nearly $770 more per month. Feels tight. They have to be more intentional with their spending. They're sacrificing some short-term lifestyle for a long-term goal. For the first few years, it looks like the Joneses made the smarter choice. They have more cash flow. They can afford nicer vacations, newer cars. The Smiths are brown-bagging their lunches and driving their old car for a few more years. But this is where the story takes a dramatic turn. This is the part the banks don't put on the glossy brochures. Let's fast forward 15 years. The Smiths just made their final mortgage payment. They are 100% debt-free. They pop a bottle of champagne on their front lawn. The house is theirs, every single brick. For the next 15 years, while the Joneses are still dutifully sending checks to the bank, the Smiths are now plowing that entire $2,788 payment into their retirement and investments every single month. They are building wealth at a staggering speed. Now let's look at the Joneses. After 15 years, they're only halfway done. They've paid the bank over $360,000, but you know how much of their original $320,000 loan they've actually paid off? Only about $115,000. The other $250,000? That was pure interest. Vanished into the bank's pocket. They've been running on a financial treadmill for 15 years and are still nowhere near the finish line. But the most sickening number is the grand total. At the end of their 15-year loan, the Smiths will have paid a total of about $178,000 in interest. At the end of their 30-year loan, the Joneses will have paid a staggering $408,000 in interest. That is a difference of $230,000. $230,000. That's a college education for multiple kids. It's a fleet of new cars. It's a massive head start on retirement. The Joneses willingly handed over an extra $250,000 to the bank, just for the comfort of a lower monthly payment. The 30-year mortgage isn't a tool for affordability. It's a tool for maximizing the bank's profit at your expense. It's designed to keep you in golden handcuffs for the majority of your working life. But what about the most common argument against the 15-year? The one you hear from financial gurus all the time. Take the 30-year mortgage and invest the difference in the payment. You'll earn more in the stock market than you're paying in interest. On paper, in a spreadsheet, this sounds brilliant. It's mathematically sound. But Dave Ramsey's philosophy is built on one simple truth. Personal finance is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. In the real world, almost nobody, and I mean nobody, consistently invests that difference for 30 straight years. Life gets in the way. The water heater breaks. The kids need braces. You get a bonus and decide to upgrade the kitchen. That difference gets absorbed into your lifestyle. It becomes restaurant money, vacation money, new gadget money. The 15-year mortgage, however, is a forced savings plan. It automates your discipline. It forces you to build equity at a rapid pace. Paying off your mortgage is a guaranteed risk-free return on your money, equal to your interest rate. If your rate is 6.5%, you're getting a guaranteed 6.5% return. The stock market has never, and will never, offer a guaranteed return. The Ramsey plan isn't about being a spreadsheet millionaire. It's about being a real-life millionaire. And that plan involves getting rid of your single largest expense, your house payment, as quickly as possible to free up your income to build real, sustainable wealth. Now, if the 30-year mortgage is a trap, Dave considers other loan types to be outright financial suicide. Let's talk about the adjustable rate mortgage, or the ARM. This is the loan that played a starring role in the 2008 financial crisis. It lures you in with a super low teaser interest rate for the first few years. Your payment is incredibly low, and you feel like you've hacked the system. But then the adjustment period hits. The rate resets to the market rate, and your payment can suddenly double or even triple overnight. It's like playing Russian roulette with your family's housing security. You are betting your entire home on the hope that interest rates will stay low forever, which is a bet that history has proven time and again to be a fool's errand. Then you have the interest-only loan. Dave calls this renting from the bank with the privilege of paying for the repairs. For a set period, usually 5 or 10 years, you pay only the interest on the loan. Your principal balance never goes down. Not by a single penny. You're just treading water, building zero equity. And at the end of the term, you're faced with a massive balloon payment, or you have to refinance, hopefully into a home you can actually afford this time. It's a recipe for staying broke forever. And let's not forget about FHA and VA loans. Now, these come from a good place. They're designed to help people with lower credit scores or smaller down payments get into a home. But Ramsey points out a critical flaw. With many of these loans, especially FHA, you're stuck paying private mortgage insurance, or PMI, for the entire life of the loan. With a conventional loan, that PMI, which protects the lender not you, goes away once you reach 20% equity. With an FHA loan, that extra $100 or $200 a month is a permanent resident in your budget, costing you tens of thousands of extra dollars over time. The theme here is simple. The entire mortgage industry has created a universe of complex products designed to look like they're helping you, when they're really just helping the bank. They sell you a low payment, but they're really selling you a lifetime of debt. Dave's rule cuts through all that noise. A 15-year term forces you to get out of debt quickly. A fixed rate protects you from market volatility and ensures your payment will never, ever change. And a conventional loan avoids the unnecessary, long-term fees of government-backed products. It's the least risky, fastest path to true homeownership. Choosing this path is a conscious decision to prioritize long-term freedom over short-term comfort. It's about deciding that you want to own your home, not just have your name on a title held by the bank. So you've chosen the right weapon for this financial battle, the 15-year fixed-rate mortgage. But that's only half the equation. How do you know how much house you should actually be shopping for? How do you avoid becoming house poor, even with the right kind of loan? Dave has a simple, powerful rule for that too. And it's based on the one number that matters most: your monthly take-home pay. This is where the famous 25% rule comes into play. It's arguably the most important, and for many the most challenging of Dave's home buying principles. The rule is deceptively simple. Your total monthly housing payment should not exceed 25% of your monthly take-home pay. Now let's break that down, because every single word in that sentence is critical. First, let's define total monthly housing payment. This is not just the principal and interest on your loan. Lenders love for you to focus only on that number because it looks smaller and more manageable. But that's not the real number you'll be writing a check for every month. Dave insists that your total payment calculation must include what the industry calls PITI: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Principal is the portion of your payment that actually reduces the amount you owe on the house. Interest is the bank's fee for lending you the money. It's their profit. Taxes refer to your property taxes, which are paid to your local government and can be a massive, often underestimated, expense. A $400,000 home in New Jersey might have property taxes over $1,000 a month, while the same priced home in Alabama might be less than $200. You have to know this number. And finally, insurance is your homeowner's insurance, which protects you from disasters like fire or theft, and is required by any lender. But it doesn't stop there. If you have less than a 20% down payment and are paying PMI or private mortgage insurance, that has to be included inside the 25%. If your new home is in a neighborhood with a homeowners association, or HOA, that has monthly or annual dues, you guessed it, those fees have to be factored in and fit inside that 25% limit. The total, all-inclusive cost of living in that house on a monthly basis, that is the number we're talking about. Next, and this is the part that trips up so many people, is the monthly take-home pay part of the equation. This is not your gross income. Your gross income is your salary before anything is taken out. It's a fantasy number. It's the number your boss tells you. But it's not the number that actually hits your bank account. Your take-home pay, or net income, is what's left after taxes, health insurance premiums, and retirement contributions have been deducted. This is the fundamental difference between the bank's math and your math. The bank wants to qualify you based on your gross income because it's a bigger number, which means they can lend you more money, which means they can make more money in interest. They might tell you that you can afford a payment that's 35% or even 45% of your gross income. But you don't pay your mortgage with gross dollars. You pay it with the actual dollars that are left over. Dave's rule forces you to ground your decision in the reality of your actual budget. So why is he so dogmatic about this 25% on a 15-year fixed loan? It sounds incredibly restrictive, doesn't it? Especially when you hear about friends and family stretching themselves to the limit to get into a dream house. The answer is one word: margin. The 25% rule is not designed to keep you out of a house. It's designed to keep the house from owning you. It's a guardrail built to protect your financial future and your peace of mind. When your housing is only a quarter of your take-home pay, look at what you have left. You have 75% of your income remaining to do everything else life requires. You have room to breathe. With that margin, you can still aggressively invest for retirement. You can save for your kids' college. You have the cash flow to build up your emergency fund and handle life's surprises. The water heater that explodes, the car transmission that fails, the unexpected medical bill. Without reaching for a credit card, you have the freedom to increase your giving, to go on vacation, to enjoy your life without being stressed to the absolute max every single month. Most importantly, you have the ability to attack your mortgage and pay it off early, which is the ultimate goal. Let's paint a picture of two couples, both with a take-home pay of $7,000 a month. The first couple, let's call them the Joneses, ignore the 25% rule. They get qualified by the bank for 40% of their take-home pay. That's a $2,800 a month house payment. They buy a huge, beautiful home. It has the granite countertops, the 3-car garage, the big backyard. For the first few months, they are ecstatic. But then reality sets in. They realize that after the mortgage is paid, there isn't much left. They stop going out to eat. They can't afford a vacation. When the property taxes get reassessed and go up by $200 a month, it sends them into a panic. They start bickering about money. The dream house has now become a beautiful golden cage. They are house poor. They have no margin for error. Now consider the second couple, the Smiths. They stick to the 25% rule. 25% of their $7,000 take-home pay is $1,750 a month. They buy a more modest house. It might not have every single feature on their wish list, but it's a wonderful, solid home in a safe neighborhood. Because their payment is so manageable, they don't feel the stress. When their refrigerator dies, they just go buy a new one with cash from their emergency fund. No big deal. They are still able to max out their retirement accounts. They take a family vacation every summer. And with the extra money they have each month, they start making extra principal payments on their 15-year mortgage, with a goal of paying it off in 9. Their house is not a source of stress. It's a source of security. It's a blessing, not a burden. Now, I can hear what some of you are thinking, especially if you live in a high cost of living area like California, or Boston, or Seattle. You're thinking, 25% of my take-home pay? That can't even get me a studio apartment in my city. And you're not wrong. This rule is extremely difficult to follow in some markets. Dave acknowledges this. But the math doesn't change just because the real estate market is crazy. The financial risk of becoming house poor is the same in San Diego as it is in St. Louis. So what's the answer? The answer isn't to break the rule. The answer is that you may have to adjust your expectations or your timeline. It might mean you need to save up a much larger down payment, maybe 40 or 50%, to get the monthly payment down to that 25% level. It might mean you need to focus on increasing your income, getting a promotion, or starting a side business to expand your budget. It might mean buying a smaller starter home or a condo to get on the property ladder, instead of jumping straight into your forever home. Or, and this is the toughest one to swallow, it might mean that you simply can't afford to buy a home in that specific neighborhood right now. The 25% rule isn't a punishment. It's a protection. It forces you to make a decision based on cold, hard numbers, not on emotion or pressure from a realtor or a lender. It ensures that your home serves you, instead of you spending the next 15 to 30 years of your life as a slave to your home. So you've followed the rules. You've got your 15-year fixed-rate mortgage, and your payment is a manageable 25% of your take-home pay. You're safe. But Dave Ramsey isn't about just being safe. He's about winning. The goal isn't just to have a mortgage. The goal is to get rid of it. So how do you turn that 15-year plan into a 10, 7, or even 5-year plan to freedom? That question is the entire game. It's the difference between playing defense and playing offense. The 15-year mortgage is a brilliant defensive move. It protects you from the stupid tax of massive interest payments and a lifetime of debt. But once you're on the field, playing defense doesn't win championships. You have to score. And in the world of personal finance, paying off your house is the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the NBA Finals all rolled into one. This is baby step 6. Pay off your home early. This is where you go from being a homeowner in name to being a homeowner in fact. This is where you take the deed back from the bank and put it in your own safe. The secret to turning a 15-year plan into a 5-year reality isn't some complex financial instrument or a secret Wall Street trick. It's brutally, beautifully simple. You pay more than the minimum. That's it. But understanding the power behind that simple action is what lights the fire. It all comes down to a little thing called an amortization schedule. When you get a mortgage, the bank gives you this schedule. For the first several years of that loan, your monthly payment is almost entirely interest. A tiny, pathetic fraction of your hard-earned money actually goes toward the principal, the amount you actually borrowed. You're basically just renting money from the bank. But when you make an extra payment, and you specify that it must go principal only, something magical happens. 100% of that extra money goes directly to attacking the loan balance itself. Think of your mortgage principal as a giant monster. Your regular monthly payment is like throwing pebbles at it. It stings a little, but the monster is still standing. An extra principal payment is like hitting it with a sledgehammer. Every extra dollar you send chops years off the back end of your loan and saves you thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of dollars in interest you will now never have to pay. Let's put some real numbers on this. Say you have that $300,000 15-year fixed-rate mortgage at 6%. Your monthly payment is about $2,531. If you just make that payment for 180 months, you'll pay a total of about $155,000 in interest. Not terrible, but not great. Now, what if you found an extra $500 a month to throw at it? You just got a small raise, you cut some subscriptions, you started a small side hustle. That extra $500 a month, applied directly to the principal, will have you paying off your house in just over 11 years instead of 15. You just saved yourself nearly 4 years of payments and over $40,000 in interest. You just bought back 4 years of your life. Want to get even crazier? What if you go full-on gazelle intensity? You and your spouse decide you are sick and tired of being in debt. You start delivering pizzas on the weekend, you sell everything that isn't nailed down, you put every bonus and tax refund directly onto the house. You start throwing an extra $1,500 a month at that mortgage. Suddenly, your 15-year loan is gone in 7 years. 7. You just saved 8 years of payments and over $85,000 in interest. You're not just winning the game, you're running up the score. The simplest way to start is what's called the baker's dozen method. Make one extra house payment per year. You can do this by dividing your monthly payment by 12 and adding that amount to each payment you make. Or once a year when you get a bonus or a tax refund, you just write one big extra check. That one extra payment a year will typically shave about 2 to 3 years off a 15-year mortgage. It's the easiest win you will ever get in your financial life. Some people sign up for bi-weekly payment plans, where you pay half your mortgage every 2 weeks. This accomplishes the same thing because you end up making 26 half payments, which equals 13 full payments a year. But Dave's advice is to never, ever pay a company to set this up for you. You can do it yourself for free just by sending the extra money directly to your lender and specifying principal only. But here comes the pushback. The so-called sophisticated financial advisors will tell you this is a bad idea. They'll say, don't pay off your low-interest mortgage. You can make more money by investing in the stock market. They'll pull out their spreadsheets and show you that a 3% mortgage is cheap money, and the S&P 500 has historically returned 10 to 12%. On paper, the math works. And Dave Ramsey will be the first to tell you the math works. But he will also tell you that personal finance is only 20% head knowledge. The other 80% is behavior. The argument to invest instead of paying off the house completely ignores the single biggest factor in any financial equation: risk. The stock market can and does go down. Your income can go down. You could lose your job. Life happens. When you have a paid-for house, your risk level plummets to almost zero. Your largest expense is gone. Forever. A paid-for house is a guaranteed return on your money, equal to your interest rate. It's a 100% certain risk-free return. There is no investment on planet Earth that can offer you that. The peace of mind that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, a market crash, a layoff, a medical emergency, you will have a roof over your head that you own outright, is a feeling that no stock market return can ever buy. The other argument you'll hear is about the mortgage interest tax deduction. People will clutch their pearls and say, but you'll lose your tax deduction. This is one of the most overblown and misunderstood concepts in finance. First, to even get the deduction you have to itemize, and since the standard deduction was increased, far fewer people do. Second, let's look at the math. You're telling me you want to send the bank $1 in interest just so you can get 25 cents back from the government? That's a losing trade every single time. It's like saying you want to spend $100 on stuff you don't need just so you can get a $10 off coupon. It's completely backward. Don't ever let a tiny tax deduction drive a massive financial decision. Paying off your house is a fundamentally countercultural act. Our entire society is built on the premise of perpetual payments. A car payment, a student loan payment, a credit card payment, and the granddaddy of them all, the 30-year mortgage. It's considered normal to be in your 60s and still be sending a check to the bank for the house you've lived in for decades. To break free from that is an act of rebellion. It requires a level of focus and intensity that most people just can't muster. It means driving an older car so you can put that $600 a month onto the principal. It means not going on the fancy vacation and instead knocking another 6 months off your loan. It's the live like no one else now, so later you can live and give like no one else philosophy in its purest form. Every time you make an extra payment, you're buying back your future. You're buying freedom. You're telling the bank, you will not own me for 15 years. You will not own my income. You will not own my future. The goal isn't just to reduce your interest payments. It's to eliminate them. The goal is to get to a point where your name and only your name is on the deed. Imagine that day. You write that final check. You might even drive it to the bank yourself. And that's it. It's over. The single largest debt you will likely ever have in your life is vaporized. The next month, when that mortgage payment would have come out of your account, it doesn't. That $2,000–$3,000–$4,000 is now yours. To invest, to save, to give, to live on. Your entire financial landscape is permanently altered. You've reached the summit. You have achieved a level of financial security that 95% of the population will only ever dream of. But that raises a whole new question. Once you're standing at the top of that mountain with zero debt and a paid-for house, what's next? What do you do with all that freedom and all that income? That's where the real fun begins. This is baby step 7. Build wealth and give. This is the promised land. This is the part of the plan where you can finally, as the saying goes, live and give like no one else. For years, maybe even decades, you've been gazelle intense. You've said no to vacations. You've driven a paid-for beater car while your friends leased new SUVs. You've packed your lunch, brewed your own coffee, and thrown every extra dollar at your debts and then at your mortgage. People might have thought you were weird. They might have thought you were cheap. But what they didn't understand is that you weren't just paying off a house. You were buying your freedom. And now you have it. Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning. There's no alarm clock because you don't have a job you hate. There's no knot in your stomach because you don't owe a single person on this planet a single dime. Your home, the roof over your head, is yours. The deed has your name on it and your name alone. The income from your investments and your work is entirely yours to direct. This isn't a fantasy. This is the mathematical result of following the plan. This is financial peace. So, what does real estate look like in baby step 7? It looks completely, fundamentally different from how almost everyone else does it. While the rest of the world is obsessed with leverage, OPM, other people's money, and financing as many doors as possible, you're playing a different game. You're playing with cash. That's the number 1, non-negotiable Ramsey rule for buying investment real estate. You pay 100% down. You write a check for the entire amount. Now I can already hear the keyboards clacking. The real estate gurus are screaming. You're killing your returns. You're not using leverage. You're leaving money on the table. And from a purely mathematical spreadsheet jockey perspective, they might have a point. Leverage can, in a perfect market, amplify your gains. But it also, in the real world, amplifies your risk to catastrophic levels. Dave's philosophy isn't about maximizing returns at all costs. It's about minimizing risk at all costs. Think about it. When you own a rental property with a mortgage, you have a business partner. That partner is the bank. And that partner does not care if your tenant stops paying rent. They don't care if a pipe bursts and floods the basement. They don't care if the property sits vacant for 3 months. They just want their check on the first of the month every single month. That mortgage payment is a roaring lion in a cage. And if your income stream dries up, the lion gets out. But when you pay cash, there is no lion. There is no cage. If your tenant moves out, it's an inconvenience, not a crisis. You have time to find the right tenant, Not the first person who can fog a mirror because you're desperate to make the mortgage payment. If the roof needs replacing, you can get it done without panicking, because you don't have a massive debt payment sucking up all your cash flow. You have options. You have control. You have peace. Paying cash for real estate turns a high-stakes poker game into a calm, boring, and incredibly effective business. And that's the second key: you have to treat it like a business, not a hobby. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-slow plan. This means you need to know your numbers inside and out. You need to understand things like capitalization rates, cash-on-cash return, and how to accurately budget for vacancies, maintenance, and capital expenditures like that new roof or HVAC system that will eventually be needed. It also means deciding if you want a second job, because being a landlord is a job. Are you prepared to get a call at 2 in the morning about a clogged toilet? Are you prepared to handle the legal process of an eviction if you get a bad tenant? For many people, the answer is no. And that's perfectly fine. That's why property management companies exist. A good property manager will typically charge 8 to 10% of the monthly rent, and for that, they handle everything: marketing the property, screening tenants, collecting rent, and coordinating repairs. They take the headaches and you get the check. For a baby step 7 investor, that 10% is often the best money you'll ever spend because it buys back your time and your peace of mind. The goal isn't to become a real estate tycoon shackled to a portfolio of 100 properties. The goal is to create reliable, passive income streams that work for you, so you don't have to. Maybe that's one paid-for rental house. Maybe it's 3 or 4. It's a piece of a larger puzzle. And that brings us to the third critical point: diversification. Ramsey would never tell you to take your entire net worth and dump it into real estate. That's incredibly risky. Real estate is illiquid, meaning you can't sell it in 5 minutes if you need cash, and it's highly concentrated. All your eggs are in 1 or 2 physical baskets in one specific neighborhood. A wise investor in baby step 7 will have their wealth spread across different asset classes. You'll have your paid-for home, you'll have your rental properties generating income, but you'll also continue to invest heavily in good, growth stock mutual funds within your tax-advantaged retirement accounts and beyond. This balance between paper assets and physical assets provides stability. If the stock market has a bad year, your rental income is still flowing. If the rental market softens, your mutual funds are still growing over the long term. But here's the secret. The final, most important piece of baby step 7. The wealth building, it isn't actually the goal. It's the tool. The purpose of building all this wealth, of having paid for rental properties and a mountain of investments, is found in the second half of the step. And give. This is the part that changes everything. It reframes the entire journey. You didn't go through all that sacrifice just so you could have a bigger house or a fancier car. You did it to reach a place of such profound financial security that you can radically change the lives of others. Generosity becomes your new joy. It's about being able to fund the college education for all your grandkids. It's about seeing a news story about a local family who lost their home in a fire and being able to anonymously send a check that covers their first few months of rent and expenses, without even having to think about it. It's about supporting your local church, your favorite charity, or a cause you're passionate about at a level you never thought possible. This is where you change your family tree forever. Your legacy is no longer about the debts you left behind, but the opportunities you created. The cycle of living paycheck to paycheck is broken. Your kids and grandkids will grow up seeing money not as a source of stress and anxiety, but as a tool to help people and to do good in the world. This entire journey, from the first part of this series to now, has been about one thing: moving from being a slave to the lender to being a servant to others. It starts with a $1,000 emergency fund. It moves to the debt snowball, then a fully funded emergency fund, then investing for retirement and for your kids' college. Then the big one, attacking your mortgage with a vengeance, using that 15-year fixed-rate loan as your weapon. You followed the 25% rule to make sure you could breathe. You saved, you sacrificed, you fought, and you won your financial freedom. And now, at the summit, you realize the view isn't just about what you can acquire, but about what you can give away. Buying real estate the Ramsey way isn't the fastest path. It isn't the flashiest. It won't give you a viral TikTok video about how you bought 10 apartment buildings with none of your own money. But it is a path paved with wisdom, not risk. It's a path that leads to a paid-for home, a portfolio of income-producing assets you own outright, and a life of peace. A life where your money is no longer your master, but your servant. A life where you can truly, without exaggeration, live and give like no one else.